the podcast with me. Thought I was a little late, huh? Not really. I just had to go get a cup of coffee for this morning's conversation because, boy, howdy. Apparently, we got busy overnight in Venezuela. Have you heard about this yet? I was actually getting myself briefed up on it because, boy, I didn't exactly see this coming. So, if you're not familiar with what's happening with the story right now, kids, apparently overnight the United States has launched a very exact military strike inside of Venezuela to capture and bring back to the States the President Maduro from over there, along with his wife. So, no U.S. military casualties. Everything is fog of war right now as far as what is and hasn't happened, other than it has happened. So, no need to panic per se. That's, I think, going to be the main topic we're going to look at this morning when it comes to talking about this stuff because I always find it, I say interesting, using the term kind of loosely, but I always find it interesting when these major things happen over the span of a weekend. And with that said, we are definitely in a weird place sometimes. However, excuse me, like I say, everything's clearing up and cleaning up, and all is well and good in the world. But, well, Jim's world, not Venezuela per se, or Colombia, because they're actually one of the ones who are having the biggest concerns right now, and rightfully so, because with that type of strike, you got a lot of folks who are heading straight into, in Colombia, they have got their military lined out to watch their border. Because why? Because with what's happened in Venezuela, which was a very targeted, specific incursion, attack, however you want to put it. So they're concerned about Venezuelan refugees trying to cut into Colombia. So they're being very mindful of that right now. So with that said, let me get over here to the comments so we can all just kind of stay plugged in together as we talk about this. Okay, first off, this again it's just occurred in the past few hours. The president is expected to address this situation 11 a.m. Eastern, so 10 Central, and to get more of the information. But again, the story as it reads right now is, I guess it was last night or sometime very recently that President Trump had made mention that Venezuela does not want to F around with the United States. Well, there's kind of proof of the pudding right there. But again, this is not new. Well, excuse me. This is new today, but not the first time this has happened. Another reason why I wanted to do my digging on this, because I'm like, wow, that sounds pretty unprecedented, the way in which it is being presented. But I thought something similar may have occurred before, and it did. Now, that was back in 1989 in Panama with Manuel Noriega, okay, and his wife. And so the U.S. said, not today, not no more, here we go. And so at the end of the day, Noriega and his wife got brought to the U.S. Noriega himself was convicted for the various, the whats and the whys don't matter as much as one would think because it was just said and done. And so with that said, this is not an unprecedented thing. And with Panama, with it being, and again, it's so funny because we have so little trust these days, myself included, that it's like, okay, it was said for this reason is why we did it. But Panama seems to be doing quite well ever since. There was a little bit of a scuff over the past few years in regards to China's control of the Panama Canal, which the U.S. completely let go. I think it was in '99 to turn the Panama Canal's control over to Panama after removing Noriega in '89. So anyway, all of that said, this is not exactly a new thing for the United States and the President of the United States to do. The other time that it occurred wasn't quite so clear cut because of everything that was involved around it, and that was in the capturing of Saddam Hussein in Iraq back in 2003. And my Gen X brethren, you guys are probably still very familiar with all of the Iraqi stuff that really started kicking off in '91 and going all the way through the '90s, where yeah, if you were in Iraq, it wasn't a good idea. You were best off to get out of Iraq. But 2003, Saddam Hussein was captured by U.S. military forces and then brought to trial to where, well, he was brought to trial in Iraq by Iraqi courts, right? To which he was executed in 2006 for all of his crimes against humanity. Even though that whole thing kicked off by way of incorrect and flat false reports about nuclear weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Not going into the politics of things, it happened. Here it is. Iraq is still not quite right since then, unlike Panama, which is doing quite well for itself at this point. But now here we are in Venezuela, and a similar thing has occurred with, again, the reports right now are that the president is expected to make an address towards this whole thing at 10 a.m. Central. I do believe that's correct. I'll double check that before we get out of here today. But, yep, so, yeah, the wall of sound in Iraq, that was a very interesting thing. Yeah, the Shah of Iran. Yeah, again, so this is not like a new thing. Even though inside of media narratives, it's going to look like Trump the imperialist. No, not exactly, because this does have constitutional provisions with the way in which everything has been framed to this point. And again, right now, no matter what you hear from the next 24 to 72 hours, take it with a grain of salt, because the true information, the actual here it is right now, it's always going to be a little skewed depending on which side you're listening to. That's another thing. Watch your sides, kids. Watch your sides. Watch your brain, because there are a lot of different aspects. You have to look at who benefits and who loses from this, because if there's a winner and there's a loser, they're both going to have a different perspective on this story and what's happening. So be very mindful of that. Do yourself a favor. Don't get worked up because you don't know all the facts. And here's the reason that and this is the direction I'm going to go in this morning in talking about this. And I mentioned it before. One of the biggest things about social media that I have found to be, and I saw this a long time ago, when this really started happening, rolling out with the socials, with Facebook and Twitter at the time, and all of them, they are designed to take you on an emotional roller coaster. Okay, happy, happy, oh, not happy, happy, oh, not happy, with a lot of the different gray areas or points on the scale taking you all the way through, right? So that said, understand that that's not conspiracy, it's an engagement machine. It's what they want it to do. And when I say that they and that's not conspiratorial talk either. If traditionally, or in traditional broadcasting, our goal was to get you to tune into the station, be it radio or television, and then never change the channel or station. That was the goal. We wanted to keep you there all the time. Because why? Because that's how we built audience, and when you've got audience and you've got that captured audience, at that point, you can start saying, hey, advertiser person, you can get to these people here because we do this, and you'll get to know each other better, and they'll give you money, and you'll give them great service, and everybody will be happy. That's the perfect world scenario, right? So inside of the way social platforms work is simple. They want to keep you engaged. And it doesn't have to be just the big boys. It could be websites by individuals. So the goal is, with a website, you want it to be an engaging, entertaining stop when someone's surfing the web, right? So they come and they hang out, and it's like blogs, right? I can speak to this because I do it. Like when I write a blog and post a blog, then somebody likes it, then I've got more blogs that they can go back and read, right? If they like that one. So I want to put out something that's interesting to allow them to stick around for a while and read more stuff. What is my intent in that? Well, specifically speaking to like toysortotems.com, I would like to encourage people to consider purchasing my book. Why? It's my one product. That's it. So, and then other things that I'm doing with like the Evergreen content service that I offer, that again is being built out as more of an educational, informational tool. I guess Toys or Totems are too, but I'm getting back into the fluff and flow of things. You'll see. Go there and look. See what I did there? So anyway, when it comes to these big, because this is a big deal. Don't think I'm downplaying it. I'm not. It is a very big deal, but we do not know at this time, something that occurred 6-7 hours ago, you are not going to get the actual on the ground straight story. Doesn't matter, because whatever's inside of this frame is all that you're getting. And whoever's controlling what's inside of this frame is telling you the story. Okay, now that doesn't mean it's incorrect. It doesn't mean it's not true. But it also doesn't mean it's completely true either. And here's the framing of words. Okay, it's not that they're lying, whichever side this is, but it's messaging. It's the preferred perception they would like you to have of the situation. So there's going to be the one side that said this was amazing. We stopped, we literally lopped the head off of the narcotics from Venezuela coming to the United States. Okay, there's one thing. And then on the other side of it is that this is imperialism and Trump has truly proven himself to be a dictator and the end of the world is nigh. Neither one of those are completely true. We don't know exactly what that means. But the thing I want to remind you of, this is not new. Okay? This is a brand new thing right now. But this type of thing can okay, let's say I'm just kind of checking out the comments from Damien there. Oh yeah, no, it did happen. Yeah, the Venezuelan thing did happen. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It did happen. But as far as full motive, what the aftermath is, and everything else, we do not know yet. And when we do know, it will be coming from a place of perspective of a side. Because, okay, the thing that's interesting, from what I understand here, just a few days ago, is that Chinese leaders had met with Maduro in Venezuela and say they were all in, all weather, good, bad, indifferent. They were still standing beside him. So what are the ramifications of that? We do not know. But I guarantee you there'll be plenty of people on the boxes, whether it's the big box of a television or the small screens of your phone. There are going to be plenty going to tell you that, well, no, what will China do? Well, I don't know. You don't know. They don't know. But they're going to make it, they're putting shocks to your system, and that's what I was getting to. It's like these things are being framed in a manner that will get your body, your actual physical body, to have a feeling, a direct impact to engage you, right? And the only way you can get engaged is through emotion, right? You can see things and it does have an impact to an extent, but unless it triggers the actual emotional response inside of you, doesn't matter as much. And since we've all been so desensitized to things that 100 years ago, can you imagine 100 years ago, someone of their mindset seeing the things that we see in movies and video games? This is not attacking that industry, okay? That's not it. But it's like we are so desensitized to seeing someone in a movie, won't go video game, but they're just as realistic nowadays. But when you see someone in a movie getting shot and blood splattering and body parts and everything going everywhere, okay, see, we are desensitized where that's no longer shocking in the least, right? Because, well, one, for the most part, we realize this is fiction. This is just a little movie being told on a screen, and that's not real. They're special effects. 100 years ago, that didn't happen. If you remember on television, when people got shot, oh, there was never even the hint of actual blood coming out of that person who just got gunned down by the Lone Ranger. But the Lone Ranger, though, in fairness, he always just shot the gun out of their hands because he was cool like that. But you see what I'm saying. But it's the desensitized nature that we as a society have grown into that would have been more than appalling. It would have been burn the witches. If they saw then what we see today on a daily basis that we are desensitized to, which is funny. And think about it like this. I don't know if you guys are Stranger Things fans, but they just concluded the whole shebang, right? 5 seasons, drawn out over 10 years, which is great. And enjoy the show. Really did. For the most part, it was good. It was good TV. But here's the thing that's funny. In watching, and I didn't watch all of the series finale on the 31st, and I've only seen bits and pieces. Alicia is the one who's hardcore with it, right? She loves Stranger Things. And I like it, but she loves it. So, but anyway, watching bits and pieces and then the ending of everything. One of the things that I found interesting, and I can see where there's a lot of the online, everybody's going back and forth about, was it good, was it bad, was it worth all this time, effort, and that's always going to be a matter of taste and opinion. Mine, everything if you're going to be able to end a story and not just cancel something and it goes away and no conclusion is drawn, everything has to end. And they ended the show. And they ended the show in the way in which the writers wanted it to end. So I don't have a good or bad on it. Okay, I will just leave it at that. I'm still a Stranger Things fan. They didn't do something so stupid or abhorrent that I'm like, okay, that's just dumb. I got to stay away from it forever. No, not at all. One that I can say did do that was Star Wars. When Disney took over Star Wars, they made the sequel trilogy. That whole train wreck, which started off fine, but then by the end, it was just trash. Just trash. Good morning to Gar. Thanks for showing up, buddy. Um, but with that said, with what Disney did with the Star Wars franchise and the way they told that story, it was just trash. It just was. It was weak. It was dumb. It had nothing to do with a galaxy far, far away from a long time ago. Right? It was just dumb. So I'm done with it. They jaded me. But going back to Stranger Things, the thing that I thought was very cool, but if you weren't really engrossed in the whole timeline and story and everything that happened from episode 1 to this final one, things got weird, really weird, where you go like season 1 and you're watching and it's like this event that's all draped in conspiracies that we're all sort of familiar with now, like the Montauk Project and the CIA doing crazy things with mind control and everything. All right, so it's got that plausible believability that makes the story really work. Like, I know that's how they did it. I knew it. I knew it. And so you've got that element, but it's all real world stuff, right? Even with the upside down in that layer of the story, it's still plausible, right? But then by the time we get to, well, season 4, really, but for 5, when they really are going to drive it home, um, I can do this spoiler free. But the big thing is visually, you're going into true science fiction, good science fiction at that, right? Because it's a completely different terrain, location, perspectives, everything. I would equate it, what just kind of popped in my head is if you watched John Carter, the Disney version. I think it was Disney who put it out. But anyway, it's the old tale of John Carter from Mars. Um, that was such, I mean, it's a great juxtaposition, like the Wizard of Oz, if you will. Black and white Kansas, colorful Oz, right? So, but when you look at a film like that, where they've juxtaposed the two different environments, that's perfect science fiction. Because again, you've got to create an alien world that is alien in the fact that it's foreign to your normal sensibilities. And and if you weren't like die hard into the show leading up to all these things that go into that realm, it was always science fiction. But when you get to the visuals of it, it kind of like throws your perspective on having watched the show. It's like, well, what are they doing here? As if like, think about like the old cartoons way back when they were playing with rotoscoping, as far as like putting um, like Tom and Jerry into the real world footage. And so you'd have the 2D animation characters interacting with the black and white human being, or maybe a little color sometimes. But and again, it's that total shift of reality, real shift of reality. So it seems weird. But then when you take the human and then like kind of chroma key them back in those days, chroma key them into the cartoon world, that juxtaposition is just so weird. So I bring all of this up because again, we as a people, a society, where we are as human beings versus where human beings were 100 years ago, we have totally different perspectives on everything. Everything, moral standards, societal code, all of those things are totally different now. At the root, it's always the same though. Humans be humans be humans. It's just what the humans are used to seeing from one another. And we've gone into such a high gear with technology and technological advancements that, again, I could blow your mind with some of the stuff I played with that are just, well, they're mind blowing to me at least, that I can take a 2D image, put it into the machine, and the machine turn the 2D image into a three-dimensional model that I can then click a button, and in a little bit, a short amount of time, relatively speaking, it just goes line by line by line by line by line. Poof, that little 2D image is now a 3D object. It like totally did a dimensional jump, if you will. But where we are again, and this is like my PSA morning with you guys as we have coffee over this, because the Venezuelan thing is a big deal in that this is actually something that has a result. Most of the things that the they, which was the operators of the system, okay? It's not conspiracy. It's just there are people who actually do pull the strings on how our society works. Want to prove me wrong? Show me how the economy is and tell me where you actually impact it. All right, there you go. So, with the they that actually run the show that we all play along with, whether we like something or we don't like something. All right, this Venezuelan thing actually has, it was said something was going to happen, and then it did happen. And there's actually an end result. Apparently, the capturing of Venezuelan President Maduro and allegedly his wife, because again, we haven't had the final, like, okay, they perp walk him out in front of Donald Trump and there they are. They haven't done that yet, not to the best of my knowledge at the time of this recording. But the point of that is this actually has a conclusion of sorts, other than now the long legal battle and trials and the that one thing, and then see who else, because like with Panama back in '89, now Noriega was convicted, sentenced 17 years in prison, but then after that was all said and done, was to be extradited to other nations for a lot of the same charges, but it was a whole different ballgame, right? But yet still the same. Bringing all this to the forefront, though, is to remind you, because we get hit so much with, we'll call them the nothing burgers of everything, that are meant solely to hit you emotionally, so you literally get your nervous system racked. And again, that's on purpose. It is absolutely on purpose. Now, that is, again, steering away from just conspiracy talk, but it's about engagement talk. Anyone who is writing or putting videos or putting articles out right now, as far as Venezuela goes, they know the odds of them knowing more than you are about that big, except perhaps the Trump administration and his cabinet. Even foreign governments don't know exactly what the hell's going on right now. They can't, because they didn't do it. Unless they were involved, then they may have a little bit more insight. But inside of the boxes that are meant to keep you engaged to their station, channel, page, whatever, they're going to hit you with the things that hit you emotionally. Don't get riled up about it. Like right now, I seem like I'm getting riled up. I am to an extent, not about that though. I'm more concerned about people, because when I watch people, I'm watching, lack of a better term, radicalization on so many fronts, right? It's like, and it's been going on for 10 years now. There's nowhere in the middle that people discuss things anymore. I try to stay in the middle in discussing things, because I'm cool to admit I don't know what all is going on. I don't understand all of the complexities of things. Why? It's not what I do. I can talk to you about my book. I can talk to you about content creation systems, because those are the things that I do. I can talk to you about the importance of being civically minded and participating in the system by way of elections as our system exists right now, because that's my wheel well, right? That's where I want to be in this thing. And even in all of those, there's room for discussion and growth, right? So we are just moving back into another thing where we've got a huge, and this one actually has a beginning and an end-ish level of talking points. It's going to be used, twisted, manipulated, especially over the next 72 hours, to get people hyped up about something they don't know. They don't know. One side's going to be right, one side's going to be wrong, and both sides are going to disagree about the other one being right or wrong. And that's where I want to do my best part. Have a great one, Gar. Do hope to see you tonight. And I love how Gar, he's very smart. He stays away from all this political stuff. But again, this isn't about politics from my perspective right now. This is about impact on people. And it's so funny because here I'm going to say something that'll most likely offend a lot of people on both sides. Okay, we've had the opportunity to watch a left side get radicalized, and we've seen a right side get radicalized, to where they are very much sincerely opposed to one another on what they see as strong issues. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But the problem is, once you take the average me and you build them up to a fever pitch on issues to where people are, first off, willing to yell and scream at each other online with some really serious words, man, that if you were in the parking lot, you probably wouldn't open your mouth. But I think at this point, we've got people so radicalized on things, they will open their mouths in the parking lot. That changes the dynamic. You don't go into, well, I'll show them and hit the delete key and they go away. Do it in the real world, if there's a delete key and they go away, it's a lot more permanent if you understand the language I'm spitting out there. So be careful, because this type of, it's always been there. This form of propaganda for one side or the other, because that's the thing too. The word itself, propaganda, is a neutral word, because you use propaganda for what you believe to be the bad guys, and you use propaganda for what you believe the good guys. And the kicker is, they're the same depending on your perspective. And so many people lose sight of that because, damn it, they want to be right. Or, in most instances, there's a lot of fear that's baked into their perspective that's not necessarily a lived observation or experience. And I really, really, really want to open your mind to that thought. Because again, in your day-to-day life, think about this. The real world, your feet are stepping on carpet, hardwood, asphalt, concrete, tile, whatever. Did the things that got you jacked up whenever you were online, on the phone, on your laptop, on your PC, on your television, did they get you so amped up and just rah? But when you looked away, it was not that way. It was like, all my stuff is my stuff, and there's nobody kicking in my door, and there's nobody, I look, my bank account's still there. Everything is still normal. But if you look inside of the box, or look at what's inside of the box, I should say, that's just a wasteland with bad things happening all the time. So be careful, because again, it's designed to do that, to keep you engaged. I know I'm harping this morning, getting a little heavy. We're supposed to just be silly coffee talk, but sometimes you just got it. I mean, we're 3 days into a new year, and 2026 is looking to be a humdinger. Which way will it go? I don't know, because I don't know exactly what the benefits are for either side. But I know the lead up was coming. It had to eventually. And I can make all kinds of predictions of how this is going to spin. One thing I guarantee you this, that one of the things that's going to be thrown out as to why this occurred. Can you go along with me here? I bet you can, if you're paying attention to any of this stuff. Well, there's two now, but the big one that everybody's going to use is like, they did that in Venezuela so they didn't have to release them Epstein files. That's number one. Number two, man, they put that heat on Venezuela so they could pull that thing down away from Waltz, Minnesota, with the Somali daycares. Mark my words, that's coming, because they're going to say that this is the distraction to pull away from that. Reality check. No, because since both of those things still exist, those things are still going to continue as they were. But the spotlight's going to get put on this Venezuelan thing because it's new, it's hot, it's got the opportunity for so much divisiveness that will keep you engaged online. And that's just the game that's being played. What does it have long term? I can honestly say, having been around at the time of, say, Panama and Noriega, my life didn't change in any noticeable way. Not a bit. Now, could there be some trickles inside of there that were impacted? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm good. I don't do much with Panamanian stuff that I'm aware of. So nothing has impacted me. Not that I know of, right? Not directly. There's that. The Iraq thing, the only thing I had there was in 91. My uncle did get deployed over there when he was in the National Guard, when they didn't deploy National Guard for overseas strikes. And that was kind of a big deal. It is still a big deal to use the National Guard overseas. Yeah, that's still why we have a military for these things. But that's a whole other conversation for another time. But again, even after Iraq, what was day-to-day life changed. Until, I will go and put this caveat in, but I won't go deep on it, is that when we did have the events of September 11th, 2001 occur here on American soil, there did change a lot of things, because at that point is when we, outside of the tragedy of what the event itself was, is that it ushered in the surveillance state that we do live under now. And that's a fact, okay? You look into the original Patriot Act and what all it allowed for, and that the whistleblowers put out there. The whistleblowers basically just observed what was in the fine print in the first place. We gave them permission to do that as a governing body over its people. So does that make it right? No. Does it make it wrong? Since they made it legal? No. It's legal. So you can do what you want when it's legal, right? It just sucks whenever you don't know how that process works, which is most of us. So anyway, but again, the main thing as we go through and into is be careful. As one human to another human, I just say to you, be careful, because guard your mind, guard your heart, and your nervous system, because that's what they're going for. We've been desensitized visually and auditorily, and now that's being totally manipulated by way of the ability for the AI systems to generate video and sounds and everything else to be so lifelike, if you will, that we don't know, which goes on to prove certain aspects. If you look at like Jose Silva and the Silva method, and you go and look at any of the stuff from Napoleon Hill and further back to like Wallace Wattles and all of these other we'll call them thought leaders, lack of a better term right now. But again, what you put in your head becomes your reality. That's how the whole fake it till you make it, use affirmations, the power of the secret and manifestation, because the brain does work like that. If you convince yourself of certain things, and you're being realistic, you'll do it. You can. You absolutely can. You can frame your brain to reposition your perspective. And it helps a lot, because if you only see what you don't have, versus even when I threw that thing with the how question, to instead of I have no money, change that to how can I get some money? And the brain starts working again. Because when you just go with the absolutes and you lock that in, then you're done, right? So you think, but we just answer and protection, that three-letter word, how, tacking that onto the front of something changes the game of what's happening inside of your head. And then once you change what's happening inside of your head, you'll be amazed what might also open up on what is now. And this is the thing, what is now? Now, all this talk I've been making for the past year and a half now, specifically speaking to the spark. Where that thought comes from that didn't come from your brain processing chemicals. Because if it came from your brain processing chemicals directly, you wouldn't have originality or something new, right? Because your brain just works on loops as far as information loops that you get. So, but here's the thing, I'm not going to go all into that and all deep and go into a debate on it, but just going from my own perspective and experiences, I do know that there comes times when the answer to the question pops up. Okay, now that could be written off as the brain finally processed something and spit out the input randomly, okay, or the output randomly. Okay, but then there are the ones that are the intuition that cannot come from that. There's probability layers, but when it's something totally new, different, unexpected, and impossible, and I'll always cite this one, the reason that I came back to Harrison, Arkansas, is because that little voice at just the right time said, oh no, you're coming back. And me saying, no, I'm not, because I didn't want to. I was living in Branson. Things had kind of changed. Places had closed that I was working, so income was going to be sketchy. Didn't know where I was going to go. But I'll be frank, this was not the place I planned on landing at all. If anything, I'd go back to Little Rock for a while and then just, jump somewhere else. But nope. That little voice said, oh no, you're coming. I said, well, I don't know how. There was no opportunity, nothing here. Again, I had been out of broadcasting for a few years at that point and didn't intend on getting back in, even though I wanted to, because it's just who I am. But then on the radio, magically, after that voice said, you're coming, there was an ad for KHOZ's news director, which I had had people approaching me for a while, almost a year beforehand. I needed to go talk to those folks. And I was like, no, I don't, because I was fighting that. I didn't want to come back here. But I did, reluctantly, kicking and screaming. But the door got opened. And the door didn't get opened by me. I can tell you that. Not the me that you see right here. I didn't open that door, but it happened. And everything since has been as close to a perfect script I could have ever walked. Lots of highs, lots of lows, really, really lows. Great lessons, though. Gave me the opportunity to learn a lot and then take the initiative to learn more than just what was, we'll say, expected or demanded of me. And I'm grateful for that. Frankly, if not, I would not have Alicia, nor would I have Caitlin, because you can't have Caitlin without Alicia, right? Right. And so I can just tell you, there's just more to it all. And the reason I brought that up is that there are so many things that are escalating in discussing and describing this consciousness prospect that, again, too many people are not paying attention to the things that truly matter. They're getting caught up by way of things like what's happening with Venezuela right now, right? You get into the shock and awe of it. But there's been so much, I got to be honest with you. Just kind of with this being like 2026, start of a new year, end of the old year, and people kind of recapping the things of 2025. My God. Now, again, the information stream is wide, available 24/7, and we're damn near all plugged in 24/7, right? It's kind of this collective hive mind Borg thing we've become. It's been nonstop, highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows, high intensity at every turn, right? I can't. I'd say the last 2 weeks of 2025, we found ourselves in more of a lull period than we've probably been in a long time. It's like just people slowed down for this particular holiday season news cycle. It was still out there. They're just trying to spit stuff out because they were trying to find something to get you and I engaged in. But on the whole, not much. Not like it was the rest of the year or the year before that and the years prior over the past 10 years since 2016. Seriously, we have been super, what's the word that I hear used by the young folks today? Overstimulated. We are overstimulated at so many turns and so many twists that it is just so, it's crazy. But what's real outside of the box that you're looking at? Where are your feet right now? What's happening just within arm's reach around you in your bubble? What's on the other side of the door? What's in the yard? Ground back into that. And I say ground, that sounds improper grammarly, but no, get grounded. Back into right here. As soon as you feel yourself or you see someone, just share this with them. When you see someone who gets so ate up in it, whatever it is, it's not their fault. This stuff is by design to get you ate up, right? So you stay following and sharing and yelling and screaming. It's designed for that. When you see them, don't argue. Don't engage to argue. When they tell you, my God, this happened, did you see what? Yeah, you go, yeah, it's rough. Acknowledge the pain and the shock of it, okay? But stop there. That's your human responsibility. Because if you've got your eyes open enough to hear what I'm saying and go, that does make sense. Trust me in this. Don't engage, or you're going to get pulled in the real world situation to where you're again going to go from the delete key on a keyboard to the delete key on a parking lot, and that's a different type of delete altogether. Don't let yourself get pulled into it. And to help people get out, again, you lead by example. Understand that the things inside of the boxes are meant to impact your full nervous system, because it's the only way to truly engage with a human. You've got to hit those emotional nerves. Visual, auditory, they only go so far. And the message really has to pull up the other three senses in some way or another that the machine can't replicate right now. Okay? Boy, not what I had intended for this week's or for this morning's conversation. But I think it's very important because, again, with what has occurred, what's going to be said occurred, and for what motivations are going to be that fear porn, once again, it doesn't matter what side you're on. Okay, if you're on the right, you're on the left, it doesn't matter. Both sides are going to get fear porn. And whether it's that, yay, we did it right, or boo, you did it wrong. It's still the same thing at its root. It's fear porn to get you excited so you connect, you engage, and then we disassemble each other in the real world when we really don't even know what the hell is going on. Just saying. But again, and history has shown us that this has occurred before in Panama in 1989 with Manuel Noriega, and with Manuel Noriega and everything there, and we learned about the shoes. Remember that? His wife, I forgot her first name. But anyway, she had all the shoes, and that was like the big scandal of it all. And well, one aspect of the scandal of it all. While the Panamanians, oh no, wait. No, that was a different one. My bad. Excuse me. Scratch that. But yeah, so that was the thing. That's what's going on in the past less than 12-hour cycle of things. But again, guard your heart, guard your mind, and always remember that whatever is in the box, scrutinize it. It's not a matter of not trusting it. I don't want to embed that thought of like, can't trust anything. No, but at the same time, give it some guardrails that you need to put up for yourself before you react. Okay? Do that for yourself and help people around you who are obviously not as savvy as you are, because you're watching this and you're like, man, I'm thinking, and this makes sense. And then test it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I only say it not to be right, but just it's perspectives that I've come across that Imelda Marcos, there from the Philippines. That's right. Thank you, Damien. Yeah, Imelda Marcos and the shoes with the Philippines and that big thing there, because she had like a bazillion shoes or whatever, while everybody else in the Philippines was really doing bad. So anyway, but again, it just goes to show there are those quote unquote high level stories and incidents that in the moment seem like have never happened before, but in most cases it has. So anyway, all that, yes, boy did she have the shoes. Alicia can totally top her now, though. I hope we don't get invaded and captured by a foreign government who wants to put an end to Alicia's shoes. I might actually instigate that myself. That's a whole different story. Anyways, it's 8:42. It's Saturday morning, January the 3rd, 2026. And remember, kids, you got to do yourself a favor. Double, triple check everything you see on the boxes and sometimes in the real world. But definitely guard your heart, guard your mind, and guard that nervous system. Because anything that's giving you a gut punch that isn't within arm's reach, be careful. That's all I'm saying. Well, let's go have a good Saturday, y'all. I think we're going to go see Avatar 3 Electric Blue Boogaloo or whatever it is later on today. It's going to be a fun family outing. No spoilers for me on the other side, other than there are blue things in a cartoon that adults don't want to call a cartoon because they're adults. It's a cartoon. See you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of the day. See you in the morning.